What is up, everybody? I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, David Baxter. So last night, 90 Day Fiance Season 9 wrapped up with the finale. With no warning, we didn't know that this was the finale. They didn't bother to tell us this time around. But there's a little more to talk about. Everyone so far has gotten married, and I just want to jump in, cover as much of it as we can, because the two-part tell-all next week is going to be pretty intense, and it seems like Jabri is ready to fight everyone at the tell-all. And I'm kind of excited to see that. So let's talk about Jabri and Miona, right? So
Yeah.
they arrived at the Joshua Tree to get married. And we have to remember this was like a 3-day planned wedding. Like a lot of the planning didn't even take place until they left his mother's house, and they had like 2 or 3 days to make it happen.
Mhm.
So there's a arch that they are waiting for that's coming from LA. And for some reason, apparently the Joshua Tree is about a little over 2 hours from LA, and 2 or 3 hours went by before they got this arch. And then when they got the arch, it was very underwhelming. It wasn't that great. It wasn't as big of a deal as they made it out. And Igor definitely came through and brought the arch. But what really struck me with this storyline was his parents really didn't come to the wedding, and there wasn't even a live stream. So what do you think about that?
Well, everyone that I listened to and talked to about it was expecting that his video call with his parents they were at like a motel down the block, and they were going to show up at the magic of production. They didn't show up. It's like finding out Maria's real.
Yeah, right. Or Lana. Yeah, I was so surprised. I was like, they're really not going to come to his wedding. And then, the internet has a lot to say. They're like, oh, well, they've gotten married already. This was just a secondary or whatever. But we can't prove that. I haven't seen a marriage certificate that proves that they were already married. I'm just really surprised. And I'm kind of disappointed in Mahala because, she's a therapist and she knows how to get into people's heads. And I feel like this was like an emotional attack. To get in his head. She didn't want him to get married. And again, as his mom, it's not necessarily her job to tell him what to do. It's her job to support what he does. So I'm disappointed, and hopefully she'll give us an explanation at the tell-all as to why she really didn't show up.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen people go, it's one of the biggest switches. Like everybody thought she was really great in the first episode, and now by this time people are like, you can't show up to your kid's wedding? What's going on there, lady?
I feel like she was punishing him, but he's 28. You can't really punish your 28-year-old son.
Yeah.
That time has passed. So let's talk about Emily and Kobe. So Kobe is ready to get married. Well, first of all, Emily had to call and smooth things over after she told him the night before their wedding that she didn't trust him and felt like they probably were rushing into things, and she didn't trust the situation. So she finally made that call, and I'm glad that Kobe didn't cave in and call her. She needed to make that call because those were some pretty terrible things to tell someone that you're marrying the night before, who left his entire world in another country to be with you. So I'm happy that happened, but we're watching Kobe struggle to keep a secret from her parents, especially her dad, David, who he's become very close with. He told us in last night's episode that he had a better relationship with Emily's dad than he has had with his own father. So keeping that secret from him was tearing him apart. So he did make it through the wedding. He didn't tell them. He almost caved in. The day of the wedding, he almost caved in. He started crying. David gave him a present, something that we don't get to know what it is. The tell-all, I'm waiting for this. I want to know what it was. Was it a check? Was it a ring? Was it a piece of gold? Like, I want to know, but we got through that, and he did end up telling Emily's dad about the pregnancy, and Emily's dad actually reacted very shocked. He felt like this was going to prolong his retirement, and he was very worried. But he did say something that I agreed with. He said, maybe we've created an environment where Emily feels too comfortable and she feels that she can depend on us too much. And I agree with that statement 100%.
I agree too. Like my cousins, they're having kids, and none of their parents are saying, well, this means I have to come out of retirement, but these kids also have jobs and live by themselves, and they have their own houses or apartments or whatever. Even my cousin who's getting divorced, she supports her own kids.
It's interesting to see that, and 2 kids with 2 people who don't seem to be fully grounded yet in what they want to do. And Kobe, it's not really his fault because he has had a career. He did model, he did work. And back at home, he also did work. It's just he can't do it yet. And Emily, like her dad said, feels a little too comfortable at home. And, you know, a lot of times the home environment can be very comfortable. When you make things easy for your kids, you know, they get comfortable. And this happens in a lot of situations, even in relationships. People get too comfortable and they don't try as hard. So I'm hoping that things work out. Emily's parents actually said that they want them to get their own place and be more independent. So we're going to see if at the tell-all they are actually in their own place, if they're working, how things have gone, because we know this has been months and months that have passed. So we have to see what's going on. And I'd love to hear David's take on what's going on with his son-in-law and his daughter. Let's talk about Bilal and Shida. So we have been watching Bilal try and convince us all season that he has so much generational wealth that he has to protect. So we watched him get married in his living room. And this was really interesting to me because I know I have some rich friends, you know, and they do rich people things. And I think it's funny because I don't do rich people things. So I was like, getting married in your living room with like 30 plus guests isn't a rich people thing. It's very frugal. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saving money. But I felt like it was kind of interesting because he said that Shida was the woman of his dreams. He's dreamed of her being with him and making her his wife. But he didn't spend literally like a dime on the wedding. He cut his own hair. His sister made the dress. His sister did the decorations. And it's like, I feel like you should at least spend something on the wedding because for the woman, this is a huge deal. Even if it's not a huge deal to him, it's something that she's going to look back on and remember. And for some people, getting married is only going to happen one time. So I was really confused at the way this happened. Why was there nothing spent on this wedding?
I don't understand either. I mean, this goes to the whole thing of, you know, maybe he doesn't have as much money as he likes to say he does. And I get I get cutting corners. But I mean, even the people on Extreme Cheapskates, they had a wedding in a chiropractor's office before they had a wedding in their backyard. So I mean,
it's his own living room and it looked beautiful. I'm not trying to knock it or whatever, but he had a lot of guests, you know, and there needed to be a little more room. When she was walking back down the aisle after the wedding, she was like bumping into tears. You know, it wasn't a lot of room. So it really makes me wonder how much generational wealth was that prenup really protecting? You know, because I'm just wondering that. And Shida did sign the prenup. He did add the clauses that she asked for her yoga studio and to give her a child. But again, can he have kids? You know, we have no clarification on that.
His
because
face got really dark at that point in time. He just like, he went from happy to like stony.
Yes. And it makes you wonder if he's covering something up. Like, he's like, well, she doesn't know that I've had a vasectomy, or she doesn't know that I'm infertile at this point. So I'll just say yes, because that's a technicality and I can get off on a technicality. So again, I'm ready to see them at the tell-all. I want to know. And Sean Robinson said in the preview that 2 people at the tell-all were pregnant. And as far as I know, Emily had already given birth. So this is 2 new people pregnant at the tell-all. So I'm really excited to know who that is.
I was going to say, I don't know when the tell-all was filmed, but if it was somewhat recent, we have confirmation that Kara has been pregnant.
Yes, the tell-all was filmed in April, I believe the end of April.
Okay.
So, and we do know that Kara is pregnant. We've seen the pictures, and congratulations to her, by the way. And I know that that's something Guillermo really wanted, so I'm happy for them. But I'm wondering who else at this tell-all is pregnant. I can't wait, because everyone's thinking it's Shida because it was promised in the prenup, but we don't know that. Also, Patrick and Thais, they finally have gotten married, and we spent all season wondering if her dad was going to let it happen. Well, first of all, we were wondering if Thais would want to marry him due to his controlling ways, his controlling nature, and him feeling as though, since I have the money, my opinion is the only opinion that matters. So we've gotten past the obstacle of her father, Carlos, because he finally left the decision up to Thais. Thais is an adult, grown woman, and she should be able to decide who she wants to marry. But her dad feels that you should not marry people that live far away. And I sympathize, I guess, because when you have a child, you never want to consider them living on the other side of the world and you not being able to see them. So I sympathize, but at the same time, you also can't limit your children to just doing the things that benefit you. Like fell in love with someone by mistake. You know, they met, he was in her country, she didn't go into another country looking for love, and it just happened. So I'm happy that he was able to accept the fact, he didn't give his blessing, but he accepted the fact that she loved Patrick, Patrick loves her, and he let them get married. And let's see how it goes, because you think she might be the one who's pregnant?
That could be a possibility. I know in this case, between Carlos's nostrils and the wedding itself, I didn't really take much else out of Patrick and Thais. I didn't think about that. I think it's because she seems like neither of them seem like they want to be parents.
They didn't really talk about it. So yeah, that's interesting. So they didn't really talk about it. A lot of the couples did. And we know Muhammad said that he wouldn't want a child if it wasn't a full Muslim religious cultural for him. So I don't know. I'm really interested in seeing it. The dance at the wedding, Patrick did okay. You know, I think he was born with, I think someone on Twitter said straight male dance syndrome, where you just don't have any rhythm at all. And, you know, I was happy that the wedding took place. And it was beautiful, the fact that he had to hire a last minute wedding planner and they literally planned this at the last minute. It was really nice. Compared with the amount of time that other people had, it was a really nice wedding.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather go to that than say, I don't know, Emily's.
Emily's was interesting. It was at Tumbleweed, and it kind of looked like a warehouse. Yeah, it was an interesting feel, right?
It looked like they cleared out a school cafeteria.
You know, a lot of wedding venues, you want a beautiful view. It didn't have any of that. So I was very surprised that was where they picked to have the wedding. I don't know what the weather was like out in Salinas. Maybe it was cold. They had to do it inside. I don't really know what was going on, but it was nice. I think everybody's weddings came out nice. The desert wedding, that was a really beautiful view and setting. And I don't know what the temperature was, so I hope that they weren't out there in 100 degrees, but it looked really nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was in a turtleneck, so I think it was probably not that hot.
They said a Joshua tree can vary from 100 degrees to 35 degrees, depending on the time of year that you're there. So I'm assuming they were there in a decent time of year so they could not have a heart attack while taking photos. All right, so that's everything that we've covered from last night. Next week is 2-part tell-all finale for this season. We're going to finally catch up with the couples and see what's going on. We're going to learn who's pregnant, who's not, who's still together if they aren't, and how things are going with everybody that we have caught up with this season. And guys, Happily Ever After is starting in 3 weeks. So if you guys aren't ready, get ready. The couples are back, and Kim and Usman are also back. Yes, I said Kim and Usman. All right, guys, I'm George Mossey. This is my co-host, David Baxter. Thank you so much for joining us. We will talk to you all really soon.